welcome to this explainer. Today, we are unpacking a really profound Eastern philosophy. It's one that literally promises to shift your perspective from passively accepting things to active, undeniable empowerment. I mean, if you've ever felt like your path was just set in stone, well, prepare to completely deconstruct that illusion.
Okay, let's dive into this, because it's probably the most universal human question out there. Are we just passengers on a pre-programmed train ride, or are we the actual engineers laying down the tracks? The ancient texts we're looking at today actually offer a highly definitive, super practical answer to this.
So here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with the illusion of fate, then understand karma as our hidden architect, learn the mechanics of conquering your destiny, outline the 4 steps to freedom, and finally look at some real historical proof with the story of Liao Fan.
All right, Section 1, the illusion of fate. Because honestly, before we can build a new destiny, we first have to completely tear down that human assumption that our fate is permanently fixed.
The insights we're breaking down are pulled directly from a text called Dharma Lessons for Lecturers. It's this incredibly rich source material that systematically explains the mechanics of human existence. And what's cool is it takes concepts people usually dismiss as, purely mystical and explains them as objective, actionable laws of nature.
So the text introduces us to this first critical concept, chada likit, which basically means destined fate. Think of this as your starting line. The source explains that all our past physical, verbal, and mental actions act like this unseen, energetic bank account. So, whether you're born into wealth or hardship, health or sickness, the text argues this isn't just random chaos. It's actually the direct, mathematical result of past actions adding up to form your exact starting conditions in this life.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the counterbalance to that. Pishichichata, or conquering fate. Yes, you were handed a script based on the past, but you are actively holding the pen right now. Conquering fate is this intentional, step-by-step process of overriding those initial conditions. You're actively transforming a bad starting line into a successful finish line entirely through your present actions.
Moving to Section 2, Karma, the hidden architect. Let's look at how exactly this unseen bank account operates behind the scenes. The text is super clear on this rule. Karma never just disappears. It's a fundamental law of cause and effect. But, and this is an absolutely crucial distinction, it is not a life sentence. The source material tells us to stop looking at karma as some sort of mystical punishment. Instead, look at it as raw data. It's simply a starting condition that is entirely waiting for you to transform it. Check out this powerful stance from Master Ji Gong. Only the weak let fate control their lives. It absolutely rejects the victim mindset. Blaming the universe for being dealt a bad hand? Well, that's viewed not just as a mistake, but as a total surrender of your inherent human power. No way we're doing that.
So, on to Section 3, conquering your destiny. Let's get into the exact mechanism for actually neutralizing that bad karma.
And this brilliantly illustrates how we actually alter our fate. The text uses this profound visual metaphor. Imagine your bad karma is a handful of salt. If you drop that salt into a tiny cup of water, what happens? The water becomes completely bitter and undrinkable. That is undiluted karma. But if you take that exact same amount of salt and throw it into a vast, flowing river, the water's taste doesn't change at all. That river represents the accumulation of your immense good deeds. You don't delete the salt, you just dilute it so massively that its negative impact becomes barely noticeable.
Which brings us to Section 4, 4 steps to freedom. We know the theory now, so how do we actually build that river?
Let's move to and see how this builds a complete system. The text outlines 4 precise steps to rewrite your destiny: right view, repentance, contentment, and secret good deeds.
Steps 1 and 2 are all about mindset and cleansing. First, you have to establish the right view, which means absolute extreme ownership. You have to actively reject fatalism and the idea that fortune-telling somehow dictates an unchangeable future. Second, practice sincere repentance. The text explains that acknowledging your past wrongs literally cuts the root of bad karma. It's kind of like pouring pure, clean water into a murky glass to flush out all the dirt before you can fill it with something fresh.
Step 3 is contentment. The source material shares this really fascinating anecdote about a monk who was approached by a fortune teller. The fortune teller predicted this life of severe poverty and loneliness for him. But instead of despairing, the monk just smiled and said, "That's wonderful." To him, poverty was the absolute perfect condition to avoid worldly distractions and just focus entirely on spiritual growth. True contentment means finding peace and absolute utility in whatever starting conditions you currently have, just stripping away the friction of resentment.
And step 4, secret good deeds. Now, doing good is obviously beneficial, but doing it without broadcasting it or seeking any validation, that multiplies its transformative power. It removes your ego from the equation, purifying your intentions and rapidly expanding your capacity to dilute that past negativity. Remember, you want to build a river. Finally, Section 5, the story of Liao Fan. Let's look at the historical proof that anchors this whole philosophy.
To really ground this, the text introduces us to a scholar named Liao Fan from the Ming Dynasty. He provides this phenomenal historical case study of someone who learned these exact rules and systematically hacked and overrode his heavily predicted, seemingly inescapable fate.
So the crucial point is right here on this timeline. In his youth, a master accurately predicted every single detail of Liao Fan's early life, and even foretold he would die at age 53 without an heir. For years, Liao Fan just accepted this as his inescapable fate. But after learning these principles from Master Yungu, he started meticulously accumulating those secret good deeds and practicing right view. And the outcome? He didn't die at 53. He lived to be 74 and had a son, completely shattering his predicted timeline. And that brings us to the core takeaway of this entire explainer. The past undeniably dictates your starting line. You can't change the hand you were dealt, but your present actions, your daily habits, your extreme ownership, those secret good deeds, they absolutely determine your finish line. You are the architect of what happens next.
Which leaves us with this final thought. If the pen is truly in your hands and your destiny is just waiting to be conquered, what will you write in your book of life today? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this empowers you to take absolute control of your path. See you next time.